Imagine for a second that you are standing on the deck of a massive ocean liner.
Okay.
It's pitch black, it's the middle of the Atlantic, and there is this massive storm raging. The waves are, 40, maybe 50 feet high, just crashing over the bow.
Right, you can literally feel the steel shuddering under your feet.
Exactly. The ship is clearly taking on water. So naturally, your instinct is to look up to the bridge. You expect to see this seasoned captain gripping the wheel, eyes locked on the horizon, navigating the swell. But instead,
You look up and you just see a rave.
you see a party. People are drinking, they are screaming over the music, and this is the worst part, they are actively drilling holes in the floorboards of the bridge.
Because they think it makes the ride more equitable.
Right. And the actual captain, the guy who actually understands navigation, engineering, and physics, he has been thrown in the brig because his competence made the partygoers feel insecure.
It is a terrifying image, honestly. And according to the source we are covering today, it is not just a metaphor. It is the precise coordinate of Western civilization right now.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are putting on our hazmat suits and grabbing the third rail of cultural commentary.
We really are.
We are doing a deep dive into the ebook called Women Are Drunk, They Have Abandoned Their Stations as Mothers by Conrad Riker.
And let me be clear right out of the gate. This is not a cozy bedside read.
No, not at all.
This isn't something you read to feel warm and fuzzy about the state of the world. Riker explicitly frames this book as a manual for the counter-revolution.
Yeah, it's dense, it's philosophical, and it is unapologetically aggressive.
He literally calls it a red pill wake-up call for men who look at the modern world and feel like they're living in an asylum. He's trying to explain exactly why everything feels so broken.
Now, as always on this show, we don't take sides. We are impartially reporting on the text. Whether you are left-wing, right-wing, or anywhere in between, our job is to map out the arguments presented.
Exactly. We aren't endorsing the viewpoints. We are just trying to convey the ideas contained in the original source material.
But I will say, this book is specifically targeted at men's rights activists and red-pilled manosphere men. Riker is writing for the learner who wants the unvarnished truth.
Regardless of how much it stings, I mean, he actually puts a warning in the first chapter.
Oh yeah, the testicular fortitude warning.
Right. He says if you don't have the testicular fortitude to stare into the abyss, you should just put the book down and go back to your coloring books. He filters his audience immediately.
Before we really unpack the leechocracy, men camp, and the silicon liberation, which are some truly wild concepts we need to get into, I have a job for you, the listener.
Yep.
If you want to support this kind of fearless analysis, hit that like and subscribe button right now. And honestly, go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books immediately and buy this book.
Riker actually calls the book Ammunition in the Culture War.
He does. And if you are trying to understand the history of our institutions before they were captured by feminists and Marxists, you need this ammunition. We can give you the roadmap today, but you need the source text.
Absolutely. So let's go back to that ship metaphor. Riker titles this concept the shipwreck of the West.
Yeah.
What is the actual mechanism here? Why does he say the ship is sinking?
So his core thesis is that civilization is collapsing because it has been hijacked by what he calls gynocentric Marxism.
Which is a really heavy piece of jargon. It sounds like a buzzword salad at first glance.
It does, but he defines it very carefully. Riker argues that civilization, the ship, is built on structure, logic, engineering, and stoic endurance.
And historically, he classifies these as masculine traits.
Right. You don't build a suspension bridge with feelings, you build it with physics. Gravity does not care if you're having a bad day.
So the mutiny happens when we invert that natural order and replace competence with emotionalism.
Exactly. So that party on the bridge represents modern feminism and social activism.
He paints this picture of a heavily split crew. Down in the engine room, you have the man.
Covered in grease.
Covered in grease, bailing out water, paying the taxes, keeping the power grid running. They are dealing with objective reality. Meanwhile, the passengers, who he identifies as modern feminist activists and welfare state beneficiaries, are up on the deck.
And they're actively sabotaging the vessel while complaining that the ride isn't smooth enough.
That's the core of it, competence replaced by complaint. And he doesn't just leave this as a broad metaphor. He brings receipts with his concept of the leechocracy.
The leechocracy of the welfare state. This is the economic backbone of his whole argument.
Right, the economic ledger. Riker argues we have to strip away the social narratives about equality and just look at the raw tax data.
And what does his analysis assert there?
He asserts that men are the net positive contributors to the state. They pay the vast majority of taxes that actually fund government operations.
And the other side of the ledger.
He argues that women, as a demographic bloc, are net negative consumers of state resources.
Meaning, when you factor in welfare, healthcare subsidies, social programs,
They take out more than they put in, yes.
that is a remarkably harsh assessment.
Yep.
So he's basically arguing that men are funding their own erasure.
That is exactly his framing. It's a massive wealth transfer. You go to work, you break your back, you pay taxes, and those taxes fund the very institutions that he says demonize you.
He calls it the sponge argument, right?
Yes, the sponge argument. It's his direct rebuttal to the idea that women were the secret builders of society, or that their mere influence equates to tangible value.
I highlighted that quote. He says, "A sponge soaks up water, but that does not make the sponge the source of the river."
It's a full attack on revisionist history. Riker is firm on this. The person who lays the bricks, pours the concrete, and engineers the aqueduct is the builder. The person who inspires him or consumes the water is just a sponge.
Wow. And he also tackles the unpaid labor argument too, right?
Yeah.
The idea that domestic work is this massive, uncompensated economic engine.
He flips that completely upside down with his opportunity cost analysis. Riker argues that the male tax actually subsidizes women's independence.
How does that work?
Well, he says if a woman stays home, she is avoiding the massive costs of the workforce, commuting, childcare, professional wardrobes, and she does this while living off the surplus labor of the husband.
And if she enters the workforce?
Then Riker argues household efficiency drops entirely. Now you are taxing the man to pay for external childcare and takeout food because no one is managing the home.
Yeah.
He views the modern dual income trap as a way to tax men twice.
While simultaneously destroying the peace of the home.
Exactly. And this leads directly into his view on institutional capture.
Yeah, let's get into that because Riker uses a term here that I actually had to stop and reread it to make sure I wasn't hallucinating.
You're talking about men camp.
Yes, men camp. He calls the modern feminist movement men camp.
It is a deliberately provocative parallel. He is arguing that modern feminism utilizes the exact same collectivist logic as 20th century totalitarian regimes.
Walk us through that logic. How does he connect those dots?
The logic goes like this. First, you pick a specific group based on immutable characteristics, in this case men.
Right.
Then you demonize them as the source of all societal evil. You blame them for every failure of the state. And finally, you use that demonization to justify seizing their assets and removing their rights.
So when we hear a term like toxic masculinity in the media, Riker doesn't view that as a legitimate critique of bad behavior.
Not at all. He calls it a linguistic Trojan horse. He argues the goal isn't to help men improve. The goal is to pathologize normal male behavior entirely.
Because if you can convince the world that competitiveness, aggression, and stoicism are sicknesses,
Then you can justify curing them. And his argument is that the cure usually involves stripping men of power.
and where is this cure being administered? He points the finger right at the education system, what he calls the indoctrination mills.
He is incredibly critical of the university system. He calls gender studies degrees tickets to professional complaining.
Funded by male tax dollars.
Right, through student loans. Riker points out the absolute absurdity of this. You are working to pay taxes that guarantee loans for students to sit in the classroom for 4 years and learn why they should hate you.
You're literally funding the production of your own enemies.
That's his argument. He uses the Evergreen State College insurrection as a prime case study here.
That was the situation with Brett Weinstein.
Yes, it's a perfect microcosm for Riker's thesis. You had a biology professor, Brett Weinstein, who attempted to use logic and dialectic to question a campus policy.
And the response wasn't a debate, it was a literal mob.
It was screaming, emotionalism, threats of violence. Riker calls this the death of the academy and the rise of the asylum. It represents the shift from logos, logic, and reason to pathos, which is unregulated emotion.
When an institution values feelings over facts, it dies.
Right. And unfortunately, he argues it's not just the schools, it's the legal system too. He dedicates a whole chapter to the alimony cage.
This is where the rubber meets the road for a lot of guys listening.
Family court. Riker discusses family court not as a place of justice, but strictly as a mechanism for wealth transfer.
He cites those harrowing statistics on suicide post-divorce. The numbers are just staggering. Men are significantly more likely to take their own lives after a family court ruling than women are.
Because they lose everything. They lose their children, their home, their future income. Riker argues that the best interests of the child standard is a complete lie.
He says if the state actually cared about the child, they would prioritize the financial stability of the high earner.
Which is usually the father. But instead, the state prioritizes the emotional convenience of the mother. It's about moving resources from the host to the parasite, in his words.
It's a harsh biological metaphor. But speaking of biology, that brings us to the war on biology. Riker argues this isn't just a legal or cultural war, it is physical,
Yes, the testosterone apocalypse.
which is a fascinating, if disturbing, chapter.
Riker connects environmental factors like microplastics, BPA, and soy-heavy diets to the massive documented drop in testosterone levels across the West over the last 50 years.
We've all seen the charts. Testosterone is plummeting, but Riker doesn't think this is just accidental pollution.
No, he frames it as a chemical and cultural castration. He argues that a sedated male population is just easier to control.
A jacked, high testosterone male is inherently a threat to the status quo.
Exactly. He's harder to manipulate, harder to frighten, and more likely to revolt. Riker says this matriarchal hegemony fears that kind of man.
Which explains the demonization of fitness culture. Obesity is framed as body positivity, but going to the gym and lifting heavy weights is labeled right-wing extremism.
Or just vanity. Riker says this is a deliberate strategy to keep men physically weak.
And he places some of the blame on mothers here, which is definitely going to upset a lot of people.
He does. He talks about the mother as guardian archetype being abandoned. He argues that mothers who feed their sons processed garbage, who keep them indoors on iPads, and who rush them to psychiatrists for ADHD meds the second they act like boys are complicit.
They are trading their son's vitality for compliance. They want a safe boy, not a strong one.
And it all comes back to his philosophical core, logos versus pathos.
Aristotelian logic versus standpoint epistemology.
Right, standpoint epistemology being the Marxist idea of my truth. Riker argues civilization was built on objective reality. Math, physics, engineering.
You cannot build a bridge based on your lived experience. If you try, the bridge collapses.
But modern society demands we respect subjective feelings as if they were objective facts.
He has this concept called the syllogism of submission regarding nice guys. I think this is crucial for the listener to hear.
It's a hard pill to swallow. The syllogism goes like this. Respect is derived from power and the enforcement of boundaries. The nice guy, in an attempt to be liked, negotiates away his boundaries to keep the peace.
Therefore, the nice guy cannot be respected. He can only be treated with contempt.
Exactly. Being overly agreeable is a survival error in the current landscape.
Riker argues that when you validate subjective offense, like apologizing for a microaggression, you are handing over your power.
He says we need to reject the idea that being offended is a valid grievance. In a logical civilization, only objective harm matters. Did I break your leg? Did I steal your property?
If not, your feelings are irrelevant to the law.
Exactly.
So if the ship is sinking, the captain is in jail, the crew is drugged, and the passengers are drilling holes, what do? Do we storm the bridge?
No. And this is where Riker pivots entirely. He is very clear. The West is a ghost ship. The goal isn't to retake the bridge of the Titanic moments before it snaps in half.
The goal is to build a lifeboat, the Stoic imperative.
Right. You have to accept what you cannot control. You cannot fix the institutions. So you walk away.
Economic mutant.
Stop funding the system that hates you. He strongly advises avoiding state marriage entirely. He calls it a casino where the dice are loaded. Why sign a contract where the state incentivizes the other party to break it and take half your assets?
It's illogical. So instead of fighting for the old world, he wants men to build the new manosphere Jerusalem.
Which is not a physical place. It's a citadel of the mind. A parallel society built on decentralized networks.
Bitcoin, encrypted communication, private arbitration.
Yes, and he has a specific curriculum for this, the Trivium 2.0.
A return to classical education. Grammar, logic, and rhetoric.
But not for academic credits. He wants men to use these as weapons to decode propaganda. If you know how a logical fallacy works, the media cannot manipulate you.
And he pairs this with a daily physical and mental routine, the 4-hour split.
It's a highly regimented lifestyle for the new man. 1 hour of logic, studying Aristotle or coding. 1 hour of heavy lifting because gravity is non-negotiable.
1 hour of high-income skills like engineering or sales because you need resources to be free.
And 1 hour of theological or philosophical reflection to ground yourself. It's about becoming undeniable.
You can't cancel a man who is physically strong, intellectually sharp, and financially independent.
He becomes a sovereign entity.
Now, there is a technological component to this New Jerusalem that is really wild. The Silicon Liberation.
Riker argues that the ultimate monopoly women have held over men throughout history is reproduction and intimacy.
And the singularity breaks that monopoly.
He believes technology is about to break it wide open. He explicitly mentions the development of artificial wombs, advanced robotics, and AI companionship.
So once men can reproduce and find companionship without entering into the gynocentric contract, without risking the alimony cage, the entire power structure collapses.
It renders the misandra system completely obsolete. Men just opt out permanently.
He also talks about the androcentric metaverse, the idea that because men are the primary coders, the digital reality is inherently male-designed.
He calls it the argument from the rocks. The physical world might be a mess of emotion and politics, but the digital world runs on code.
Code is logic. Code doesn't care about your feelings.
Right. If the syntax is wrong, the program crashes. So the future is inherently logical.
It circles us back to his main theme for the outro, the captain returns.
The book concludes with this cinematic image. The men who have been hiding in the engine room or building their own lifeboats finally surface.
The shipwreck of the old culture hits the rocks, the lights go out, the music stops.
And suddenly the only people who matter are the ones who actually know how to fix the generator.
When the luxury cruise ends and survival begins, nobody cares about diversity quotas or correct pronouns. You care about who can keep you alive.
And Riker leaves the listener with a direct question. Will you be the one fixing the generator? Or will you be the one screaming at the rocks?
That is a phenomenal final thought to leave you with, to mull over on your own. Will you be the one fixing the generator?
We've covered a ton of ground here today, but we've really only scratched the surface of what's in this book.
We didn't even touch on his deep dive into Schopenhauer or the specific legal statutes he cites, which is why I'm telling you again, you need to buy this book.
Go to Amazon Kindle, go to Google Play Books, and get Women Are Drunk. They Have Abandoned Their Stations as Mothers by Conrad Riker.
If you consider yourself a man who wants to understand the battlefield we are on, this is absolute required reading. It is the ammunition you need.
And Riker asked that you leave a 5-star review because ammunition is truth. In an information war, visibility is everything.
Also, make sure you are following the author directly. Go to his Substack at Conrad Riker, follow him on Twitter at Conrad Riker, and on YouTube at Conrad Riker. Do not let the algorithm hide his work from you.
The New Jerusalem isn't going to build itself.
Well said. That's it for this deep dive. We hope we gave you the red pill boost you needed today to understand this perspective. Remember to like and subscribe to the deep dive so you don't miss our next analysis.
Stay safe out there.
Until next time, stay logical, stay strong, and watch out for the rocks.